Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Student Insider Podcast. I am joined, of course, once again by Alex. Alex, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How you doing, Luke?
Yeah, not bad. I hate to bring up the weather every episode, but
Actually, I don't think you speak about it too much. But it's
okay, I just recall in the past, it's always like, what do I say at the beginning? Let's talk about the weather. It's a very British...
typical thing to say.
But no, it is. I think there's actually, you mentioned earlier that there's going to be some pretty spicy weather in the UK. 40
degrees next week.
But what have you been up to? Let's get the rundown.
I thought we was gonna just talk a bit about like life updates, a bit on the podcast, and so I'm just still in my placement year, finishing up in August/September, working in marketing. Yeah, pretty good. I think we talked about it a few times, but yeah, enjoying it. I'm thinking about like post university and probably gonna explore marketing more. So see what happens with that.
Yeah, it's exciting. I'm sure we'll get all the updates as time moves on anyway from that. But actually that links in quite nicely to my question of the week.
We're going to another question of the week.
Yeah, so as some of you may know, in our last episode we spoke with Rada from
Yes, we did.
From MasterChef.
Yes, which we haven't seen it, link in the below in the show notes.
Yeah, it was a really good episode actually. I really enjoyed speaking with her. It was a pretty exciting conversation. But sort of along the lines of in that episode anyway, Rada was telling us that she made the switch from studying law to now being a private chef. My question is to you, is if you could take some time without repercussion out of like, what you're doing now, like the marketing, and explore any other career, what would you be interested in looking into and why?
So to explore any other career. So I don't know, I've got lots of thoughts about this. Like I have a whole page in Notion about like thoughts about, career and life and whatever. And I have like different ideas for different things I want to do, over time. Like my whole thought process now is like explore different careers throughout my life. Like it's like life is so long. Like I don't want to just do one industry for my whole lifetime. It's kind of like I want to do maybe like something for like, I don't know, 3, 5, 10 years and then move on to something else. And like, so it's like keeping the interest in, like not just doing the same thing. So like my current process, like I said, is marketing. But like if you say something else would probably be film, like more traditional filmmaking, like working on set, like for like movies and TV shows and that kind of thing. I find that probably it's a big interest in mine. It's something I've kind of like diverted away from, but it's something with in the back of my mind, something I might want to go into maybe later on. But that's probably the main thing I would want to explore.
Yeah, it reminds me from a while ago. I think that when you were like going to university, or like I'm not sure whether to do like the more like business marketing side or the more like filmmaking, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So I guess you've made that decision, but you're still got like little like sort of little itch in the back of your head that's like telling you, oh maybe.
Yeah, like it's like I can't. I had a thought about it a while ago about this whole thing of like exploring different industries, and I think that just makes it more interesting because like after a certain amount of time, it's like you've done so much, it's like we just want to change it up, and like I said, you got that itch that I still want to scratch. Just leave it behind and completely leave it. But yeah, it's at the back of my mind, like always changing my mind anyway. So
I think it's very much depends on what your your outlook on life is and what you really want to do. Because I think some people are very content with like just that one field. And then they just, they'll study, like do their PhD, do their postdoc, and, really get to the end. And then just stick with that for life. But I think, I think especially for myself, like, I just love learning new things and experiencing new things. So I think that career jumping does sound a bit risky, but also something that could be pretty exciting, I think, because you're always learning, you've always got something new to learn, like, as a beginner in a field, I guess.
Yeah, especially if you can, go into a career, like a job at, so for example, as a graduate, you can get a decent salary after having your degree, and if you can have a good experience to back you up, you can get a job like quite quick after uni. Like we hear that people struggle to get a job out of uni because of lack of experience and more being solely focused on academic or whatever. But it's like those little extra things we mentioned before is like that makes you stand out in the application, like internships and stuff is. Like even just doing something for a local company, literally reaching out and be like, yo, can I do this thing for free for you? And then like it might not lead to a long-term thing, but put that like experience on there. They might pay you after or like lead to something a bit more long-term. But it's like just those like little nuggets that can help you out. But
it gets me thinking about like something that it's basically King's just released like final year results for like
Oh, okay.
my whole cohort, and I think it really links nicely. Is like basically a lot more people than I would have thought that I know anyway. Like just sort of looking on Instagram and LinkedIn, it's like, oh look, this person's done well, and I was quite surprised by the amount of people that like had got a first class degree. Compared to the amount of like the ratio of like the second and the thirds. That might be a thing where it's like maybe you don't want to put up what your degree results are if you didn't do as well as you expected, but it was still quite like a solid number for me. And I was like thinking about that in terms of, you know, once you're a graduate, it's like, wow, that really makes so much sense. Like everyone's gonna come out, or like there's gonna be like a whole cohort of people from loads of different unis that are coming out with like a first. And you know, it is difficult to do, but yeah, as you were saying, like it is so important to have like that extra bit of like spice in your CV to really make you stand out. And I like to think as well that yes, finding a job's difficult as a graduate, don't get me wrong, but I think if you make finding a job a full-time job, then it's like I mean, for me anyway, once I like sort of graduated, I took like 2 weeks, and then after those 2 weeks, like the void it started to set in. You know, it's like there's just the existential like oh my god, like what is my purpose, what is meaning? Because once you stop studying anyway, for me, like exiting third year, it's like, oh, like what do I do now? Like everything that I was doing was for this degree, and now it's like, well, boom, here's your degree. I'm like, oh damn,
now what are you gonna do?
What's next? So yeah, it hit in pretty quick, so I started like, you know, thinking about what I wanted to do, but it took me like 2 weeks of like, you know, full-time job searching. Like writing up cover letters and everything is like the worst.
Yeah,
I think we said this before.
Such
it's
a
like
stretch.
It's just you write all these like lovely messages to these employers, and then most of the time they're just going to say no anyway.
Yeah, I think you got to just write your template out and then adapt it for different roles. And like,
it's not a bad idea.
Something that I think is really important that I learned when I applied to my placement is it's like a lot of things in life. Finding a job is a numbers game, 100%. It's like you got to put as many applications as you possibly can, because it's just purely a numbers game. Because like whoever reads your application, they might just be having a bad day. They might not even read it properly. They might just, you know, there's so many variables that go into it. They might miss something on your CV that would actually make you stand out, but they're reading it so quick. I think it's like, I remember reading before, it's like the average employer looks at your CV for 10 seconds or something like that.
Wow, that's pretty. Yeah,
wow. I don't know. I can't remember if it was that short of a time, but I remember reading something like that. And
yeah, it's just
remember, just a numbers game. You just got to keep like one after another.
It is like, because it's just everyone is just like striving for something really. It's like you're competing with the rest of the world, and like everything's so competitive nowadays, I think. So it's hard, I think, to, you know, keep up in a way. It's like it requires all the effort in the world just to like kind of stay still at sometimes. I feel like the work can really like just like drag you back. Yeah. With how like fast everyone's running, but it's just try not to get overwhelmed, I guess. Yeah. My advice. But we're good anyway. I'm working now actually. Yeah. Update on my side. Question of the week is like such like a good like prompt to get conversation going, right?
Yeah, I really like it. It's a good idea. I don't know if we came up with it a while ago, but
actually, I'd like to know which episode that we actually started doing that.
I feel like it was maybe like early on, maybe like 3 or 4 or something. Because I know we recorded the first 3 before we released them. Remember? And then I'll probably post that, I reckon.
Yeah, it must have been. Yeah, that was so long ago. Actually, I don't know if
2 years ago I got the notification on LinkedIn. It was like, congratulations,
congrats on 2 years of the Student Insight. That's insane. Yeah. It's weird that you like it was just like one COVID project has turned into like what we do now, which is really fun.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about. So I wanted to talk a bit about like how we started the podcast as students and stuff, and talk about the whole
perfect timing for a 2-year anniversary, I think.
Yeah, I think so, definitely. Do you have other things you want to cover on the life updates?
Oh, I mean, other than the fact that I'm planning on taking a year like away from academics for a while. I kind of have like, I don't know if it's an actual word, but like screenophobia, I'm going to call it. Like just looking at laptops, and especially my laptop anyway, like this thing here, it just makes me sick now. Like it's weird. I just can't bring myself to want to like look at more and like study more like on a virtual screen. So I started a job in a pub. I'm just going to work there. Just kind of, you know, let my hair loose, do something that's not too much of a challenge.
Kind of let your mind breathe, I guess.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. And then hopefully, once I sort of come out of the clouds of the study clouds, I'll be able to see things a little more clearly and start putting, as you say, like put some career plans together, think about what I actually want to do.
Nice.
But otherwise, nothing too special on my part.
Cool.
Just happy to be graduated, to be honest.
Yeah. Woo! Yeah. What did you end up getting actually?
First.
Oh mate, good. Nice.
I actually, I was actually planning on doing don't know about an episode, but basically, I don't know if I told you, but I started studying for my final year exams like 5 days before my first one, and I still somehow managed to pull like a first out of it. Like I did just scrape it. But to be fair,
70% or so.
Yeah, a lot of it is my fault because I just enjoyed doing like iGEM, the project I mentioned here, like so much more. So I just invested way too much time in that because I was having a blast. And then, sort of come round, finish my dissertation. I'm like, oh my god, I actually have to do my exams now. So I could maybe at some point in the future just give like an overview of how I managed to crunch all that down.
I think that could be very interesting. That could be a very interesting episode because it'd be like how to get first in 5 days or
something like that. But it'd be something that I'd be happy to share with everyone. I mean, it wasn't easy, but it'd be something maybe for the future. But otherwise, that's life updates for me. But I guess it'd be nice to sort of do a bit of like reminiscing on the past, bit of nostalgia.
Yeah,
us like sitting in my garden, like, putting like the logo and everything together.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. So let's just reflect on that. Actually, 1 second before we do that, I wanted to talk a bit about something I mentioned to you earlier. It's like the dumb phone challenge that I did.
Oh, of course, yes. And there's like another life update. Yes, I remember that. It was for a month, right?
Yeah. So I think it was just under a month or so. It was back, when did I do it? Towards end of May to June, something like that. And basically it was just like, let's see. I came across these videos on YouTube and blog posts and whatever. I was like, oh, let's try this challenge. Could be interesting. Can I like be fine without a smartphone? Like, can I like do normal stuff without this like consumption of thousands of content or whatever, And I was like, okay, let's have a look. I've done quite a bit of research online to try and find a phone that I could use that would be functional, easy, but like a quote unquote dumb phone, So after lots of searching, the first one I came across that I was looking at was like one of these like Nokia flip phones. But then it had like the thing you have to like click 3 times to get a certain letter, so it would take like half an hour to send a message.
Oh yeah, it's like it's because there's no keyboard, is it? It's not like because I know the BlackBerries like they used to have like the whole keyboard, but most of them like you have to press the numbers and they have like ABC.
Yeah, it's like yeah. So I was like, I had a look at that, and it just ended up being like an absolute pain. So I was like, okay, need something else. I was looking at BlackBerries, but actually like in the start of 2022, they just like BlackBerries just don't work anymore apparently.
Yeah, I think the company just flopped. Basically,
the company just like completely changed to something different, and they stopped supporting the phones, and apparently I was watching some videos online about them and said basically they just don't work properly anymore. Like some of them, the SIM will work in there because the SIM is providing for the phone, but the phone is not supporting providers, so it's like probably won't work anyway. So then I came across same BlackBerry kind of style as Nokia. I think it's called E72. Like basically, it's little grey one, QWERTY keyboard, so you can actually type thing out like a normal. It's like your normal computer keyboard, like that, but like much smaller.
Oh yeah, obviously.
Yeah. So like just like that kind of size, and quite small. And basically, it was just like maybe the size of this. I don't know, but not that thick, obviously. But and it was just very. That was fine. It was very easy to send messages. Send messages working. Phone calls were working. They're fine. And so the biggest reason I didn't do this earlier was like, how am I going to message on WhatsApp? Like, I don't know how's this going to work. Like, because I speak to a lot of people through WhatsApp. I'm like, well, I need some sort of solution here. And I was like, okay. I did a load of digging online, and then I found out, I think it was quite recently, that basically you can use WhatsApp on your computer now without your phone being active. So like it still syncs, maybe like through the cloud or whatever. So all I did was had my normal smartphone, the SIM inside it, synced it with my computer. You scan the QR code on your computer or whatever, and then it syncs to the app. So I've done that, then took the SIM out, put it into the dumb phone, and then that's worked. I could do whatever, but it had very basic essentials. Phone message, text. You could search the internet, but pages wouldn't load. Like you can see the results on Google, but it wouldn't load a page.
Interesting.
And it had like Tetris on it as well, a couple games.
I was about to ask, did it have like Tetris, like Snake, all the classic mobile games?
Yeah, it was an interesting challenge. Make me like think, reflect, be more like away from the consumption of, content and dopamine and stuff. Like, I was reading this book, maybe, I don't know, a month ago or so, and it was talking about how like all this like over big amount of like huge amounts of dopamine can like do something to like the dopamine receptors, and it means like if you take away a significant amount of the time of those like big dopamine factors, I'm not talking very scientifically here, but anyway, basically it was like if you take that time away, it was like you will get more joy from little things, like breathing and like just having a meal. It just feel much more enjoyable because you're not like in that big roller, like the big consumption of things and dopamine hitting devices, and I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think I definitely agree. Like dopamine, basically, like, and anything that makes you feel good, effectively, is the same as like, I don't want to say hardcore drugs, but it has the same effect as drugs. You know, like over time, you realize, like, you know, when you drink loads of coffee, for example, like, you know, people that drink 3 or 4 coffees a morning because they need it to feel something, and it's basically because your body adapts and gets used to like digesting the coffee quicker, or the caffeine, not the coffee, but so that way you need more of it. And it's the same thing with dopamine. Like, your receptors in your brain like get used to the constant dopamine, so they basically like they become a bit desensitized to it, because it's like, okay, look, signals going through, like, you know, don't need all this extra excess like crap. And when you take a detox, basically, like, you know, the brain's quite plastic, so basically it starts to, like, you know, then you become desensitized to it, and then, as you're saying, like, things just, you know, food's better, conversations more like, you know, I like to describe it as things being a lot more colourful. Like, I think conversations are a lot easier, it's a lot easier to connect with people. Basically just bringing yourself out of the clouds, in a way, is what I like to describe it. And actually, that reminds me of a book that I read. I might have mentioned it on here, but it's called Dopamine Nation. Yeah. By Anna, I think it's Lembke, something like that. Really good book. I think I probably mentioned it.
Yeah, you mentioned it before.
But yeah, it really like sort of goes into depth about like how it works and a way of avoiding it, and that was like very much like a catalyst for me of realizing, like, oh my god, you know, really need to get myself away from these, you know, easy sources.
I think once we're aware of it, it makes it like we can be more intentional with it. It's like I think the biggest trap is people not being aware of what's going on. They just like do it without thinking about it. But if you like doing these things, like, you know, social media or whatever, but you know what's happening, I feel that even if you still do it, because there's nothing wrong with it if you want to do it, you know, if you want to go on social media, I still go on social media. I'm human in the 21st century, you know?
Yeah, exactly,
like, But it's like, if you're aware of what's happening, I feel like that just makes things much better, and you can just be more content, you know? I don't know. Just some random thoughts that come to my head.
No, I think I definitely agree. It is like just really easy to get caught up in it. And yeah, I mean, we've done like a billion like detoxed and
so this kind of stuff so many times. So
yeah, I like the way that you described it, actually, because it reminds me, and I think that this is one of the articles that Mark Manson, the author of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F
without getting demonetized.
Without getting,
don't even get monetized, but you know.
No, we got sponsors. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. What I was saying, but yeah, he wrote like on his blog. He wrote outside of his books, like, he's posting like content quite consistently. I'm not sure if he's still doing it now, to be honest. I've been a bit out of like the Manson like sphere, I guess you call it.
It's a cool name.
It's something like that for a while. But I think the one article that really hit me the hardest was the one that he wrote about self-awareness, and it being like basically being at 3 levels. I think he compared self-awareness to being like great sex or something like that. Yeah, honestly, like, in obviously Mark Manson style, but basically the first level is that where you everything that you're doing is very subconscious, and it's like you like, you know, when you're checking your phone and like scrolling through social media without even thinking about it, you're just like, that's like the sort of the first level of like self-awareness. And then once you reach the second level, it's like when you realize, and like, wait, what am I doing? It's like you realize that you've kind of been on autopilot, I like to describe it. And once you reach like that second stage, it's like, oh my god, like you start realizing, you know, all this stuff that you've been hiding from, the stuff that dopamine's been like protecting you from, like all this, like, you know, really like these sad feelings.
Like, what's the reason for these actions, kind of thing, like. Yeah,
exactly. And then they start to become conscious, and you start realizing you get into this really spooky phase. I mean, I went through like it's the reason that the article like resonates so hard with me is because like it was like literally in levels. And once I reached level 2, it was like, oh my god. I started to realize like all this stuff, like, you know, when I was like stressed out or sad or whatever, it'd just be like, you know, like start looking at stuff, make myself happy again. And then you sort of start to dip sort of down back into that, you know, you stop losing the highs, the dopamine hits aren't as common. And then you start to you enter like the sea of just like depression and all this like wacky.
It's like withdrawal symptoms.
Yeah.
I think it's like you might be thinking, oh, I need it. My brain is like telling me I need this. This is it's making me doing it is making me worse. But I think it's just like a withdrawal. It's just a symptom of withdrawal of not having that. It's like on the other side, things can be much better, kind of thing. You know.
It's a bit like Anna in her book describes it like a seesaw, basically. Whereas like if you're constantly getting like so much dopamine while you're like pushing too hard on this scale, your body will start like pushing back because it wants the scale to be level. So that's like basically what keeps you alive. Like if you felt happy all the time, or if you have felt happy all the time, you wouldn't, have any reason to, you wouldn't feel hungry. Like all these negative feelings are gone, so you wouldn't survive basically. So
I think it's like it can be something we use, something we take time off and go back and repeat. Like you mentioned in the last episode of Terry Crews podcast episode, I think with Tim Ferriss.
Yeah,
I listened to it the other week or so. A really good episode.
Do you like it?
Yeah,
I was quite shocked, honestly. Like I didn't realize Terry Crews was such like a emotional character. You just kind of see him on like these shows and stuff as just like this massive, like burly, like dude.
Yeah, exactly. And he was talking about how like he's when he's on like shows and whatever, and they're like, oh, we need to like do some promotion for it or whatever. And he's like, okay, he doesn't push on social for the where he's on, or I think he's on like America's Got Talent or something now. And then he takes time off, and then he comes back, and his followers are still there. They haven't disappeared. They're still there. He puts it out, and people still respond. It's like he's taking that time away, and he's come back, and it's fine. But like because you get especially people that have massive followings, they get like hundreds of messages every single day, and it's like so much to take in. So it's like people that are like quote unquote really successful, they're saying this, so then it's something we can apply to our lives as well, And yeah, I think it was just really interesting to hear that from someone that has that, that massive like success and done like 100,000 different things.
Yeah, no, I think I'm glad you listened to the episode because it was a good.
Cheers for the recommendation.
Yeah, no, it's alright. And then sort of going back to this, you're in layer 2 at the minute, and then you kind of, I mean, for me anyway, I was like in a phase of like questioning, like why am I feeling this way? Like what is all this, why am I feeling so sad and everything else that was going on? And then once you reach the third level, you kind of realize that your brain's just like a big bag of chemicals that doesn't really make sense all the time, and you don't have to listen to it. Like you can be sad, but ultimately you decide to be sad. It's like kind of like the layers of an onion. You just keep going, and I think you just learn a lot more about yourself if you do take like these detoxes, which is why we stress it so much, because it's like a really good thing, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, cool. Let's talk a bit about then how we built this podcast, because
that
was going to be the title of the episode, so we might
of course.
A bit. But do you want to just talk about the story and how we started it?
So I have to think back actually, but I think that it was sort of middle of COVID, and we were like effectively just like complete lockdown, right? Like we couldn't do anything, we couldn't go anywhere.
I think it was around the time we finished first year. That kind of summer, I think. So
once the void starts setting in, I guess like you've got a free summer, no work to do, like you're told to relax, but so I think that, well, anyway, in me, it's always been like, oh, I need to do something. Like I can't just sit around and do nothing. I find it really hard to do that. And then I was sort of brainstorming, like, what do I want to do this summer? I still had iGym on the side as well, but that was all virtual. And when you're working virtually, it's a lot easier to balance like your work, because you can like, it just takes you 2 minutes to open your laptop and hop on call. You don't have to like get dressed, get ready, like shower, go out. You can just sit like on Zoom like a gremlin, like no judgment really, because it's a group of students as well. Like I didn't need to wear a suit or anything. I was like, well, what can I do? And I thought, starting a podcast would be pretty cool, and I'd want to sort of base it around like like study techniques. And I think the main selling points for me is that it'd be great if I could help, like having gone through first year, would be to like help what I would have liked to know if I was starting like as an A-level student. And also just for me myself to like maybe just get better like conversation skills, and just pick up some good like study techniques for myself. And I was like, who is the one person that I know that would be perfect for this show? And I was like, my friend Alexandro Theodoro. And then that's when sort of you come in. No, the picture I just sent you a random message, didn't I?
Yeah, I remember. Cheers for reaching out.
That's all right.
Yeah. I was toying around with the idea of starting a podcast before, and it was kind of like something, oh, maybe I'll do that in the future or whatever. And then you came to me with the idea. I was like, yes, I'm down. That sounds good. And then we kind of just built it from there. Like I remember, like got on some research into how like making the growth start, in a good way. And we released 3 episodes on the first day that we released it. Like we recorded them. So we started off, obviously, because of like lockdowns and stuff. We've done them all virtually, didn't we? Until restrictions changed. So we done mostly virtually. Then we done like one in person virtually, and then now we can do like whatever we want really. Like usually when we've had guests now, we've done them virtually, and so we recorded. So if we just go over like the systems that we used, right? So we used Simplecast to like distribute the whole podcast, build the website off it, and it like puts it onto iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, all that jazz, and then we put it on YouTube as well, the video version.
It's basically just like our hub.
Yeah, it's
for our podcast. Like it's like our home. And then we have like all the branches out to Spotify and all these other platforms that you're most likely listening to this on, like Spotify or Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, Apple Podcasts. I think like 40% of the viewers come from Apple Podcasts.
There you go.
And I think maybe like 20% from Spotify, and then there's like all the other percentages trickle down into the rest of it. So I guess it's in. I guess a platform like this, it costs us maybe like £60 a year or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Or maybe £60 each a year for both of us once we split the cost, but something like that. It's not too much, especially for like having everything so organised and it distributes it to all the platforms as soon as you click the upload on the website, instead of having to go to every platform directly.
Yeah, I think that, for us it was really handy, because I think as students anyway, and like having all this work that we're doing on the site, it was very, it just facilitated like us getting content out a lot easier. I think
I feel like it's made it very frictionless. It's like it's not a lot of work to put an episode out. It's kind of like you put the work in at the start to understand how the platforms work, blah blah blah, and it's like now it's like okay, pretty simple. It's like plan, record, upload,
Yeah, pretty much. Like that's like our sort of workflow, isn't it? Really, it'll be because we have our Notion that we use for most of our like planning.
Plugged 1,000 times.
God, I've just got lost track thinking about how many times we've mentioned Notion now.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So it'll be, we have like our everything like sort of lined up in our episodes. Sort of like, is it like I think it's a page, isn't it? And then you have like the individuals. Like, is it the tablet view?
Yeah, we've got it's like they call it like the board just Kanban view.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, so we use that. And then so we have like the episode titles and the episode numbers, and we have like a little workflow sort of. I think it's like like research, and then like recording, editing, and then publish, and then we just sort of move them along as they're going.
And we have like a template within each page, so it's like we kind of have like we have it open here. So we've got intro and question of the week, and we just got the main episode, and then we just conclude after, and it's like that template just creates easy structure to it, less friction to make something. I think that's like the important thing for it. Something we used recently when we recorded with Rudder on for the episode before this.
Yeah.
We used Riverside, and I used this at work. We were working on a video project, and so we used it to record something for there. And it was like, oh, this could work well for the podcast. So there was like, okay, it's work well when we have a guest. So when I first used it, they had like a 1 hour time limit or something with the free version, but I think they've just changed it now that you can. I think you have like 2 hours or even longer or something like that.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
So yeah, we used that to record it. It works really well. The reason it worked quite well is because basically it records straight from your webcam to the computer instead of recording it over the cloud on Zoom or something like that. So basically, it's not like the picture quality is higher, meaning like the video quality turns out much better. And yeah, it's just that it worked really well for us.
I think the nice thing as well is like at the end of the call it took screenshots for us. It was like random like ones of us like smiling and all like giggling in the call. Was quite cute.
Yeah.
We put those on Instagram, didn't we? Yeah. No, Riverside was fun, but I think most of the time, online anyway, it was always Zoom, I think.
I think like going forward, if we do any online, I think Riverside is a good option.
Yeah, I think so as well, because I think Zoom, once we stopped being students, we didn't get the discount anymore on the free unlimited calls, I think it was called.
Yeah, because it's 40 minutes max with free plus guests. So.
Yeah, I think so. But that's online anyway. And in person, we just record it either. I think we did one episode in my flat in London.
Oh yeah.
And then most of the time we're usually here, aren't we?
Yeah. So yeah, pretty simple setup. Oh yeah, we can talk about microphones and stuff. So here we've got the Rode NT USB. I think how much did it cost? Maybe £70, £100, something like that. I use it for all the voiceovers on my YouTube channel as well, so it's a very good microphone. Really high quality, especially for the prices. Worked really well. Like use it when I'm like when I go back to uni and stuff. I brought it with me, and really good microphone. If you're recording a voiceover and you want top notch audio, and say you've got like a lot of background noise, you can actually like put like a quilt over you, or go in a cupboard and record, and it sounds nicer.
I actually did that once for a video that we had to record for iGEM in 2020.
Oh yeah.
That's how over my head. It was so awkward though because I didn't rehearse the script. We literally had to put this video out. I think I was doing the voiceover 2 hours before the video was due. So I kept stuttering and I was like, oh my god, I'm getting so hot under this towel and I keep stuttering and having to redo these slides. It was so annoying. But
like if you can go into a small room, that works well as well, because then you get like the noise isn't bouncing off the walls and stuff. Like if you go in an empty room, there's going to be like so much more echo and stuff like that. So
that's true, yeah.
So having stuff in the room that you're in as well is important, and it's like a not too big a room. Like if you're anywhere too big will create echo. But
and then when we're online, I bought myself the blue Snowball.
Yeah,
I think I can't remember what the company's called. Is it Yeti?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeti, yeah, I think so. But it's literally like a little black orb with like a little tripod stand that I use, and the quality's been really good on that. And the good thing about it as well is I think it automatically adjusts and does all the settings for you when you plug it in. So it's really like if you're just beginning and you want to do like audio stuff, like it basically just does everything for you.
Yeah,
I think there's like actually the insulation on the microphone is actually inside the Snowball itself.
Yeah, I think it's called a Yeti Blue Snowball or something like that.
Yeah, but so you don't have to worry about like the surroundings. To be fair, when I was using it, I did notice a big difference in the audio quality in different rooms that I've used it in the past. But I just find that using like a smaller room with as little, like if you can hear yourself like echoing off the walls, it's probably gonna pick up in the microphone, and you can always like test anyway. You always can like press record, listen back, and be like, does this sound okay? You know?
Yeah, exactly. That's good. And that cost what, maybe like £30-40?
I think I got it for 40 or 50 something. I think.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's not too bad. And they have like the blue Yeti. They have one that's similar to this as well. I think they call it like they have the blue Snowball, and I think that's the one you got. And they have the blue Yeti. It's like a bigger one, similar to this kind of style. That's like a little bit higher end. I think it does basically the same thing, just a little bit different. But yeah, but the reason we can't use two of these microphones when we're recording is because my microphone will pick up your microphone and your microphone pick up my microphone, so it will pick up both what we're saying, so we could only use the audio from one anyway. Because it's like there's something called like condenser microphones and non-condenser microphones, or no, condenser and dynamic microphones. And basically, one of them is like they only pick up the direction of sound in front of you. The other one, it picks up the direction all around. So like this picks up all around, so we can only really use one. When we first used one, I was like, oh, is it even going to work well? But it ended up, it's working quite well for us, really.
Yeah, I think so.
But like, if you're doing more higher end stuff and you want two microphones and you want the audio quality to be much higher, then you need like two microphones which are either condenser or dynamic. I can't remember which version it is, and you have to plug it into like an audio recorder, and then plug the audio, and then they have to like put the SD card in the audio recorder, record it. So the audio recorder costs like 200, and the microphone maybe could cost from 100 to 500 for the microphone. It basically has like this. It's like a big circle cable with like 3 dots inside. It's like just an audio cable instead of this one being, which is USB. So the ones we both have are USB microphones. They use XLR cables for the ones I'm talking about. That would be higher end. I looked into it before, but like, if this works, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, kind of thing. Like
I guess so.
Yeah, it's like maybe down the line, always look into something like that. But this works for now, and yeah. It's like it's very frictionless setup. That's something that's really important. It's like all we do is one plug in and it works. It's like from anywhere else, I can plug this microphone in, it works. It's like there's no like big overhaul of loads of steps to kind of set it up. I guess that's the main thing, really, isn't it? Is that especially if you're gonna, because I imagine that because getting into podcasting is like a full-time thing, and you want to do it as a living, is kind of like really unfeasible, because it's like not really sustainable at the beginning anyway. It's like something, if you wanted to go full-time with it, with anything, with like that, it would be like you have to build it on the side first. Yeah, like exactly. Like you can't really predict the revenue stream, because it's like the main revenue stream for podcasts is sponsorships, really, and it's they base it on how many downloads you get a month, and then they base how much they pay you per, like how many average downloads, and they pay you on that. So, but I think just while we're on the sort of topic of the mics, when you're listening to like, I think sometimes you hear on the news and they get like random guest speakers virtually, and they just use their like, Dell laptop mic, like microphone in the laptop, and usually it just sounds like really bad, and sometimes it's like unbearable. I've been in
in like plenty of Zoom calls where we're like reaching out to new people and, you know, talking with different teams during iGEM, and like the audio quality is just like unbearable and it's just like painful to sit and listen to. Same with lectures, honestly. Like just in general, just bad audio is just like makes things like just so difficult to listen to.
Yeah.
So I think it is worthwhile like investing. If you're going to start anyway, it's always good to have good audio quality from the beginning. I think that we've
absolutely,
been,
yeah.
like,
I think audio quality was a big priority, and I think from episode 2 or something, we both, or 2 or 3, we both end up having our mics, and yeah, I think it really makes a difference because it is a audio first kind of platform, podcasting. So it's like that is like the bigger priority versus, you know, recording on camera for YouTube and stuff. Yeah, because usually I think like people on YouTube will drop off sooner than people that watch it on audio platforms. So I don't think we found a way. Currently we don't have a way to see how long people listen to on audio platforms with the analytics we have access to. Because basically in Simplecast, like we mentioned, what we use to upload and stuff, they have analytics so we can see how many downloads we've had in the last 30 days, like all time. But the like in terms of like audience retention, they would call it on YouTube, like how long has the person watched for out of the 1 hour episode or whatever. Yeah, we don't currently have access to that on Simplecast. I don't know if they do it in the higher end plans, but yeah.
So I guess the next thing we can really talk about is like, because we've spoken about, you know, all the resources, and so we had like a little sort of touch on the beginning, but I think the main thing is, I mean, I guess this is kind of turning into like a how to podcast kind of episode, is that, you know, the main thing is like having a topic idea and having an audience. I think that's quite an important thing to set at the beginning. I think for me anyway, or for us, it was like we would really want to target like the students, because it's, you know, it's an audience that we can really relate to, having been through, you know, the stuff that we do. And I don't want to brag, but like I feel like we're very like ambitious students, so we're not just like the, you know, the foundational. We've really like pushed for, you know, like the extracurricular stuff and, you know, all this extra bits that we've been doing like on the sides, you know, like you have your societies and like the placement year, etc. So, you know, it's good to know the audience, I'd say, basically.
I feel like there's a lot of advice on the internet about like content creation and stuff, and the big thing is niching down. Is like finding your niche and then like sticking to it, and like before like trying to branch out to other stuff, because it's like you gain an audience first for something, and then over time kind of like branch out into different stuff, because like they come in more invested in people that are curating it, so they're more interested in the other stuff that you're talking about. So for example, when we were looking at this, I was like, remember looking on the internet and seeing, well, there's not actually many. There's not really a podcast, anyway, aimed to students about university, like primarily like UK based kind of like university life and stuff. There wasn't really much out there, so it was kind of like that's like there's a gap in the market kind of thing to kind of provide value. Like I feel like there's a lot of stuff on YouTube and stuff in terms of like normal like talking head videos, like people speaking to the camera about this kind of stuff, but there wasn't really like longer form content, people like diving into the kind of topics we talk about. And like you said, the research part is important. It's another whole aspect of making the episodes, is like using different resources, looking online, coming up with like a structure for what you're going to talk about, like when it comes to conversational skills and asking questions and stuff like that. Like something that I'm still working on when I was editing the previous episode is like I keep saying the word like a lot still, and
I think I do as well.
I feel
it's got better though. I've noticed that we've both got a lot better, like since if you listen back to like episode 1 and 2, exercise for everyone listening, and just compare it to what you've heard so far, you'll definitely see like there is a big difference, I think.
Yeah, and I feel like, because I've been listening to some podcast episodes, so I feel like so I said it just there then, but listening to other people will kind of like help me learn more about podcasting and, you know, having those conversations. So I feel like that's interesting.
Yeah, no, I think that it's good to, I mean, if you're going to do podcasting, it's a good place to start is to listen to podcasts and just see what inspires you, really. Which podcast you like listening to. I think at the time, before we started anyway, I think a big one for me was Joe Rogan. But that was more just because I really enjoyed like the conversations that he would have with people. I think one of my favorites is definitely with Joey Diaz. And I think he's just a comedian, but they're really good friends. And the stories that Joey Diaz like pulls out is just like unreal. It was really funny for me. I mean, back in the day, I don't really listen to too much Joe Rogan anymore. He's been through a bit of controversy, I think, but I won't mention the topics because I don't think that it's very
I haven't really heard about any of that. So.
Yeah, maybe I mean, you're welcome to look it up in your own time, but I think Joe Rogan's been through a bit of controversy with like COVID and things like that. But I think that anyway for us it was the main thing was looking at like where do we want our episodes to go, and it was I mean I don't know about you anyway, but before I came to university there was not really much preparation you can do. It's like, and I think that it's been really interesting for like. I mean, the reason I do these episodes mostly is like, I mean, it's great to put content out, but it's more of like switched into just having like these really like, thought-provoking and interesting conversations that you don't usually get to have.
Yeah.
With like friends and people at uni, because everyone's just always like talking about maybe celebrities or something else, like events, Love Island, you name it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it's definitely been an interesting experience so far, and yeah, cheers, mate.
Yeah, no, it's been good. Like 2 years of podcasting, it's been good fun.
Even that we haven't had like, looking back, we haven't had the most consistent schedule, but it's like over time it's built up, and I feel like we've got a good amount of episodes there.
I mean, to be fair, I don't really want to. I mean, I've thought about this in the past. I'm like, we could probably do so much more, like with the podcast. But I think it just comes down to like this is more of like a hobby for me anyway, and I think we've discussed this as well. Like it's more of a hobby. So when we're not like being as consistent as we need to be, or like things are popping up with work and university, like I've tried my best not to blame myself and be too critical, because it's like at the end of the day this is just like a fun thing that we just happen to put together in our free time.
Something on the side. Yeah, absolutely cool. I think we've talked about a lot there then. Yeah, different kind of episode, not as planned out, but yeah.
I mean, it's, if anyone has like any questions about sort of podcasting, this is something that we've done. I think it's just even if you don't get your feet off the ground with the podcast, like just give it a go. I think it's something really fun.
Like it's anything like the whole like content creation sphere. It's like one of my favorite quotes is like, if you wait until you're ready, you'll never get started. You just got to press record. You just got to start. It's the most difficult thing to start when you've never done anything before, but then that just puts you onto a trajectory of figuring it out and putting stuff out there. I think that's the most important part.
Yeah, 100%. Like I can't even like begin to put into words like how much this show has done for me. Like personally, I think that every time we have a conversation, I've said to you as well. Like I think I've even said on the show before. Like I just like, oh my god, I can't like this stuff that Alex is saying to me is just like insane. Like stuff you don't really consider about like productivity. Big one for me has definitely been like reading more, rather than just watching YouTube and just sort of wasting the hours away. That was a very big thing for me. I've actually started reading a new book called oh my god, what's the name of it? I think it's 101 Essays to Change the Way You Think. If you've heard of it.
That's interesting. I haven't heard of it. What's it about then? Is it?
It's basically like, they're not really essays, but there's like 101 like basically life advice, like bullet points in this book, and basically it's pretty much just, I like to see it as a book that summarizes pretty much all of the stuff about like self-help and mindset that I've read in the past, like just put into this one book, and it makes it really concise. But I've only like just started getting into it. A friend let me borrow a hardcover copy actually, which has been nice because screen phobia right now. So been sort of doing a lot more like sort of pen and paper like work. But it's been really like fascinating so far. And I mean, even in the first like 2 pages, they're already mentioning like these big people like Marcus Aurelius. And it's like, wow, not only is this 101 essays based on some of the morals of Marcus Aurelius, but also like Mark Manson's book and all this other stuff. So,
it's pulling from like loads of different resources.
Yeah, so but I'm really excited to get into it because the stuff I've read so far has like already kind of blew my mind away. One of the big ones is that you kind of look back on the past and you beat yourself up about like the things that you didn't do, but then you realize like you never really know what's going to make you happy in the future. So there's no way of like doing any sort of long-term preparations for anything. I think living in the moment is very much the way to go. Like for me now, maybe in a long-term sense it'd be better, okay, maybe I should do more studying so I can prepare better for a really prosperous career in the future. But me now is just like, I don't want to study, so I'm kind of getting the balance and just being like, you know what, it's fine, I'm just gonna do what I want to do in the moment.
There's plenty of years, there's plenty of time to do stuff, figure it out, and just go with it. But
but exciting,
interesting. I think I'll check that book out.
Yeah, you should. Once I've sort of chugged my way through it, I'll be happy to lend you I can land you a copy if you want. Yeah, I'm just, I've got like a whole stack of books. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, no, it's really interesting though. Yeah, I think this podcast has just very, very much like opened my mind to like stuff about productivity and things that you really don't think that you need to get into, especially as a student. Like you just kind of think, oh yeah, I'm going to be a biochemist while I get older, like as an A-level student, and then you get to university and you're like, oh my god, I did not know that I had to like be so organized. I didn't know that I had to like study so hard. And
no, there's 1,001 factors, that.
It's actually 1,002. I don't know, man.
Actually,
there's always one more. There's always one more thing that you can learn, which is why I think it's like what you said at the beginning about like exploring different careers, and just why I wanted to prompt you about it, because I think anyway, I guess this kind of relates to people that are just graduated and also people that are just starting. It's like, where do you which door do you go through? So that's why I asked you that question at the beginning. It's kind of like a nice circle back, just to be like, I think the best thing, for me anyway, is just like learn as much as you can. Like there's always the 1,004th factor to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. All right, I think we'll wrap up. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody.
Or listening, whichever platform you're on.
Yes,
thank you, Simplecast.
Yeah, please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, as per usual. We are on social media. We recently started TikTok, so yeah, we've got some clips on there. Yeah, we've got like 500 views on one of them, so yeah, not too bad. Nice organic reach. There's another tip for you if you're starting a podcast. TikTok is like the new platform that, it's been around for a while now, but it's lots of organic reach.
Because the way they name it is weird. There's like it would be like productivity talk or something, I think they call it.
Really? I'm not. Yeah,
there's I think there's basically different themes. I think they're different hashtags. Oh, okay. So I wonder how big the productivity talk sphere is on the hustle culture, etc. I wonder what that's like on TikTok. But on TikTok as well. We'll put that in the show notes.
In the show notes on YouTube, the video version, and audio version on all audio platforms. So thanks a lot for listening. Thanks a lot for all watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye, guys.